Hey guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. You know, BlackBerry is really moving ahead with the different form factors. You know, they tried the Torch, physical QWERTY keyboard, touchscreen. They did the Pearl Flip, or they're back at it again with another clamshell device, the BlackBerry Style. It's available on Sprint now for $99.99 after a $100 mail-in rebate. And you know, it's a pretty decent mid-range smartphone. It definitely has its quirks. BlackBerry 6 is decent, but it still has some issues in comparison to Android and iOS and some of the other devices on the market. But all in all, you know, pretty reasonable smartphone and something that might be worth considering. Is it worth considering? Is it for you? We'll find out in the full review, which starts right now. So here's the BlackBerry Style 9670 with Sprint. You know, and if you recall looking at the original pictures and all of those leaked images and such that what we like to call Mr. Blurry Cam in the industry took pictures of, a lot of people were concerned that it was going to be bulky and going to be fat and going to be ugly. And it's really, you know, it's not the case. It's definitely one of those things I think it'll have to grow on certain people, rather, you know, certain people love it, certain people hate it, and then there'll be the people that hated it first and then changed their minds afterwards. But overall, the design is pretty nice. I like the chrome accents on the sides and on the top, and on the top part of the hinge here. Design-wise, looks pretty good. If you just saw the unboxing video, we'll recap. On the left side, 3.5mm headphone jack and micro USB charging port, micro SD card slot. On the right, volume rocker and convenience key. Two little indicators at the bottom indicate that some sort of dock or something's coming in the future. 5-megapixel camera with a flash in the back. And then as you can see here, the battery as well. So nice device, feels good in the hand, has that flip phone feel to it. Nice to see a flip phone again. I don't know how much of this is me, you know, excited that it's not another touchscreen candy bar phone that's running Android. You know, it's something different. It's a different form factor. It's something we haven't seen in a while. And it's a flip smartphone. So, you know, it's unique. It's different. Full QWERTY keyboard on the front, although it's a little bit smaller. And actually, you know, I didn't notice it when I was doing the unboxing, but in testing it and working with it for about a week, or a couple days rather, the keys are much smaller than the Bold 9650 or the Bold 9700, the Torch, etc., etc. So, you know, a little frustrating if you're used to a BlackBerry keyboard and you're used to a bigger BlackBerry keyboard and you go to this. But for those that aren't used to or used to on-screen keyboards and go to this, I think you'll be pleased. Notice that there's no spaces in between the buttons. Now it's all one big plastic piece, and it has RIM's new trackpad on the bottom. So overall, you know, nice design. This was pretty interesting though. The way the hinge works and the way the flip works. I have to hold it down here so you can see it. The angle that the phone is at is great when you're making calls, and when you're holding it in your hand, it feels good. When you're taking pictures, though, it's another story. You know, because the picture has to be held like this. So when you're taking pictures straight on, you have to hold it like that to take pictures. So when you're holding it to take the picture out, you know, it's hard to see the screen, but then when you hold it like this, it angles the picture. So minor frustration there. Let's go through here. Welcome to BlackBerry. You can see I'm walking through the initial setup menu. Just wanted to show you what it was like. No, we don't need to see the video. And one thing I like, you know, of course the BlackBerry Style is running BlackBerry 6. One thing I like about it is right out of the box, which I accidentally got out of, it takes you to Setup, which allows you to set up your email, your instant messaging, visual voicemail, social networking, some of those other things where people are like, how do I get to this? How do I set it up? Why do I have to go to 7 applications to set up all of these features that I want to set up? So directly from this, you can set up your email accounts, instant messaging, visual voicemail, all of that stuff. So that's nice. So the Style is running BlackBerry 6, you know, and it's very similar to the Torch 9800, but the interesting thing with this one is there's no touchscreen. So everything's based on the trackpad. You know, a little bit of a departure from the Torch, where you can use the keyboard, you can use the trackpad, or you can use the touchscreen. So a little bit different in terms of everyday navigation, but, you know, functionality-wise, menu-wise, everything's almost identical. You have your several different box or folders down here, if you will, all favorites, media, downloads, frequently used apps, and more. And then by clicking that, that'll expand your individual folders. So let's, you know, use all, for example. You have your typical icons, messages, text messages, contacts, web, media. Since this is a Sprint device, it does come with BlackBerry Maps. And in addition to that, it comes with, we'll scroll on to it, Sprint navigation. Typical Sprint apps like Sprint Zone. And then we'll go down here to go down to, I can't remember where it is, but there's Sprint TV and couple other options, Sprint TV and NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile on here as well. I'm sorry, then the media folder. That's right. Sprint TV, Sprint Music Store, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, Slacker, and a couple others. Interestingly enough, out of the box, which reminds me now that I reset the device for the review, I need to change this. The trackpad is extremely sensitive, so we'll go into change that and take care of that. To scroll down, I set it to 60 last time, so we'll do that. Now that that's set, we're good to go. You'll see a couple other icons, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace, all of which, these three at least, are RIM-specific applications. So Facebook for BlackBerry, Twitter for BlackBerry, MySpace for BlackBerry. Those are on there as well, in addition to the typical games, WordMole, and everybody's favorite, Brick Breaker. So that's a nice touch to have on there as well. Now, it's funny, despite these differences in terms of the navigation bar, for example, which will show you when you have missed emails, missed text messages, and some other notifications like social feeds. Besides that being there, functionality is very similar to BlackBerries of the past. Their goal with this was familiar but fresh. So BlackBerry OS 6 is a little bit of a departure from BlackBerry 6 is a little bit of a departure from OS 5.0, but not too much. Still very much resembles a BlackBerry. You have your profile options here, where you can scroll down and create a profile, or you can use one of the custom one or one of the ones that's already pre-installed on the device. And then your universal search, which is a nice touch. So we can type in, from the search menu, we can type in, a couple different options and find contacts, or let's type in Slack, for example. And you'll see Slacker Radio. And you can search BlackBerry App World, Google Search, YouTube, search Slacker Radio as well. So it's a nice touch. Universal search, and when you have contacts in the device, you can search by contact. So if I bring up Aaron Baker, or I type in Aaron, it'll bring up my contact, it'll bring up search Google for Aaron Baker and a couple of other options. So nice touch to have those there. Otherwise, a revised network connections menu here with Sprint. Of course, the Styles Wi-Fi enabled, so that's on there. And then Bluetooth, and then you can set the clock alarm from here and customize your mobile network options from this menu. So nice to have all of that on the home screen as well. Now, you can do one of two things. You can click all, or you can hit the BlackBerry key and click Open Tray and go from there. So I really want to show you this external display. They've done a really good job of enhancing it a little bit from the Pearl Flip 8220 and 8230 and making it functional. And it's it's definitely one of those things I missed from the Pearl Flip, the ability to see the text messages on the outside display and being able to see emails and such without having to open the device. So I'm going to send a test text message here, and you'll get an idea of what it looks like. So a pretty cool little feature. You can see it. Hey, hello, phone dog. Hello, phone dog. And then it'll hold here for a second, and then it'll pop out, or the little message part will go away, and you'll see the full, just like that. You'll see the full message. And from there, we can open it up and see it, and we can respond. Now, of course, like the BlackBerries, the recent BlackBerries at least, the text messaging is threaded. And to give you an idea of the keyboard, as I said earlier, it's a little bit cramped. I didn't care for the size. I didn't think it was that bad when I unboxed it, but when I started using it in everyday use, or when I was testing it rather, it's definitely small. And so for people with bigger fingers, or people that are used to the Bold 9700, or some of the ones with the bigger keyboards, they might be frustrated. Now that said, I've had it for a couple days, so I've gotten used to the smaller keys, but they're definitely much taller and narrower than traditional BlackBerry keys. So I said, hey there, how are you doing? The quick brown phone dog is neato. So you can see, it's, and then don't get me wrong, they're typical BlackBerry keys. They're raised. They have the edges, sides. They're definitely tactile. They feel good, but they're a little bit tiny. Quick brown phone dog is neato. I'm going to get these tonight on this phone, and I'm like, who sent me this message about the quick brown phone dog? And I'm like, oh yeah. No, but then you have your typical emoticons as well, and then it'll show up here in threaded text messaging mode from each one of your contacts. So otherwise, contacts, speaking of contacts, the calling menu isn't that different. You're seeing a BlackBerry 6 traditional, no calls, nobody's called me tier. But you're seeing a traditional, dial a number prompt. So you can see, dial from there, and that's how it would work. Now let's do actually show you some slight changes to the call structure. You'll see here. Revise buttons on the bottom. Let me turn that volume up. Revise buttons on the bottom with flash, mute, add participant, speaker. A little bit of a different color hue in the background. Otherwise, very similar, and because it's a flip phone, you can close it, and that ends the call. So nice touch on that front. Contacts a little bit different, not too much. I mean, very traditional BlackBerry, but you'll notice some a little bit of facelift to the contacts menu. Different picture icon, and categories are grouped a little bit differently. Title first and last name, company are all grouped together. Then your email. You notice there's separators in between those. BlackBerry pin, and then keep scrolling down, see notes, and then of course you can add a picture and then add that person to a category. So again, very familiar to BlackBerry users, but still a nice revision.